Well, hello, Convention of State supporters. My name is Andrew Woodruff. I will be your host for this episode of COS Live, and I am joined by none other than Rita Dunaway, who is the new COS host with me, and we are just so blessed to have her on the program and just so thankful that she will be joining us every week as the new co-host. How are you doing, Rita?
I'm doing great. Excited to be with you today, Andrew.
Yes, I'm so excited that you're with us too. So tomorrow is President Joe Biden, tomorrow is the inauguration of Joe Biden. He will become the president of the United States of America. He will become the 46th president. And I know some of you are cringing at that, but there is hope in 2021, specifically with Convention of States and what can be achieved in 2021. That being put to the side, though, I know many of you are very wary about what will happen in a Joe Biden administration. His political ambitions, I'm sure, are really concerning for you. And we're going to have Rita Dunaway give a little bit of her perspective because she wrote an amazing op-ed for the stream. We'll get to that in just a moment. We also have a fantastic interview with a COS team member who fought in the US military, but then his team members at COS convinced him to become a citizen so that he could vote in the 2020 election. So he was fighting in the US military before he was a citizen. Can't wait to get to his perspective and hear what he has to say about what happened in 2020. But first, as always, we have our Article 5 trivia giveaway with COS Vice President Mike Ruthenberg. Mike, take it away.
Well, thank you for having me, Andrew. Good to see everybody again. I'm glad to be here. It's time for another round of our Article 5 trivia. And I think we're going to have a whole lot of people that know the answer to this question. So hold on tight, and hopefully your fingers are fast enough so you can win our prize for today. We have a fun prize today. It is one of the mugs that I like to drink out of. It actually turns color. It starts black. You put your warm beverage in it, and it will reveal the picture, which I think producer G is going to show us right now. There it is. And it is up for grabs if you can answer the trivia question. Don't be too disappointed if you don't win, if you're not the first one with the answer today, because you can go to shopconventionofstates.com and you can find this mug for sale right there and you can get your own. So right now, I wanted to share with you what our question is. And the question is right in the Constitution itself. So many of you are probably going to know the answer. And that is, under Article 5 of the Constitution, what fraction of states must pass applications for a Convention of States to be called? What fraction of states must pass an application for a Convention of States to be called? That's our question for today. I'll come back later in the show and give you the answer, and hopefully you'll be the winner. Back to you, Andrew.
So Rita, as I said earlier, you have an article or you have an op-ed that was published in the stream, and it is absolutely phenomenal. I really enjoyed reading it, and I implore all of our viewers to go read it because it will give you a new perspective on the incoming Biden administration. One of the things that I was able to kind of point out or pick up, Rita, was the fact that many people perhaps voted for Joe Biden because they thought it would bring this return to normalcy. Maybe the chaos from a Trump administration would go away with a Biden administration. But from what it looks like, it seems that Joe Biden does not want a return to normalcy, but a new normal. And you outlined in your op-ed the 48 plans that Biden has that really don't have anything to do with the Constitution. So I was wondering if you could kind of give your perspective on the incoming Joe Biden administration and what our viewers could expect over the next several months from his administration.
Sure. Well, unfortunately, Andrew, I don't ever have the space in my little op-ed to outline all 48 of Biden's plans. He has a lot of plans for America. But I want to back up for a minute and just say, I always encourage people to try to sort of separate out the person and the policy. I think there are good reasons to respect Joe Biden as a person. He's been through a lot personally. He has overcome a lot in his life, and he has devoted many, many years to public service. I think his intentions have been good, but that's where we switch over into sort of the areas for wariness or reasons for concern. We have to wonder, how exactly does President-elect Biden understand the ideals of America? His record gives us good reason to doubt that he understands them in the same way the Constitution sets them out. For instance, he is really proud of his role in passing the Affordable Care Act. And while it may have been well-intentioned, the whole Obamacare thing is just a shocking example of government overreach. And we should all be alarmed when our federal government, Congress, orders private citizens to buy an insurance product. There is no authority for Congress to do such a thing set forth in the Constitution. Biden also championed the Brady Bill. If you remember that, it required local officials to do background checks on handgun buyers. And I want to say, whatever you think about the wisdom of background checks on handgun buyers, the concern that you should have is, well, where does Congress get the authority to order state or local officials to do what it wants them to do? It doesn't have that kind of authority. And so we really are going to need to be on guard against intrusions into authority that is reserved to the states by our Constitution. And, like you mentioned, Andrew, if you look at Biden's campaign website, there were a jaw-dropping 48 different plans for the nation. And they cover so much ground. They range everywhere from ending the COVID-19 crisis, which I know we all want, to tackling the climate emergency, what he calls the climate emergency, to advancing LGBTQ equality. And, plans are good. It's good to have a plan if you're going to lead a nation or even a business. And I will say Article 2 of the Constitution gives the president the power to recommend measures to Congress. So in setting forth plans or ideas, the president is within his constitutional power. The problem is when he starts making plans for the nation that the Constitution does not give the federal government power to enact. And if you look at all 48 of his plans, you'll find that a lot of them fall into that category of no power. They're things that the federal government under the Constitution has no power to actually do. We need to really be on guard against that. President-elect Biden kicked off his presidential campaign by acknowledging that we are in a battle for the soul of the nation. I think he's right. I think most of us today would agree with that. But the question is, are his policies the right solution to the problem in America today? Are they the right antidote to the poison that has infected the nation's soul? And for those of us who don't think so, I would recommend that we not demonize or ridicule or talk down on the people who do think Biden's plans are the right solution. Instead, we need to help our fellow citizens remember and understand what a healthy American soul really looks like. And there is no healthy American soul without respect for the rule of law and specifically the constitutional separation of powers. And I have to say, Convention of States is the solution that can truly help to restore America and respect for the Constitution and the rule of law so that the rights of the people will again be respected and protected.
Honestly, Rita, I just love that perspective. And I really implore everybody to go check out your article on the stream. That op-ed is just so amazing. But still, being wary of what is to come. And so I love it so much. And I'm excited to get the perspective of our guests that we have. So we have Lee, who is a state analyst with convention states, and he's working tirelessly to restore the Constitution. And he is also a veteran with the United States. So he is also helping to defend America from all of its enemies, foreign and domestic. So Lee, welcome to the program. How are you doing today, sir?
I am fine, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I just want to jump right into my first question. Tell us where you were born and how did you come to serve in the U.S. military?
I was born in Canada. And when I was 14 years old, my folks decided that they wanted to move to the United States. They moved to Portland, Oregon. That's where I grew up, went to college. And that's where I ended up getting drafted into the military.
So even as a non-citizen, you were putting your life on the line for this country, but you never became a citizen until last year, I understand. So what caused you to make that decision?
Well, when I came back from Vietnam, I investigated, if you will, becoming a citizen, and I was a little disenchanted with all of the nonsense that I was subjected to, plus the fees and everything. And it just, in my world, I was not politically literate. I really didn't care much about politics. And the only thing of value that I couldn't do was vote. So I just never did. And I just went throughout my life as a Canadian citizen with a Canadian passport. And just really never thought about it again until a couple of years ago.
Well, how did you hear about Convention of States, and what made you say, you know, even though I've never voted or been politically active, this is important enough for me to dedicate my life and talent? That's a pretty big leap. So how did you come to that point?
Well, with the introduction of President Trump, I was concerned. I was really concerned that it was a game for him, and he was not going to be a dedicated president. So I became a little bit interested in politics. Leading up to that, I got a little introduction into politics, dealing with some local legislators in my state and trying to get some HOA legislation passed and whatnot. So I got to know my legislators, and I've had personal meetings with them. I've been to the Capitol, and I've been to a couple of the committee hearings and that sort of thing. So I kind of had an insight to the political world, but I still wasn't engaged. But then as time wore on, I got to notice the disparity between the media groups, and I used to get my news from CNN and a couple of the others, and it didn't take long to understand and learn that that was not the place to be. And so I settled on Fox, and I was watching Mark Levin one evening, and I don't even recall who he was interviewing, and the words Convention of States came out. And I jumped up from the couch and I ran in, got on my computer, and I looked it up. And because of the interest that it was coming my way, and I looked it over and I thought, well, gee whiz, this is something I can get interested in. And that's where it began.
Mm. And so can you tell us a little bit, Lee, about what you do for Convention of States?
I'm a state information analyst. I really kind of started out through the DC, RC areas, and I found that my interest really didn't lie in the grassroots area. I don't do those messaging well. I'm the world's worst salesman. for me to pick up a phone and call somebody and try to give them a sales pitch, it just scares the heck out of me. And I had really, as I got into it, I discovered that that was really not the place for me. And as I investigated a little more thoroughly, I realized that there was some technical support that was needed, and that was my background. I wrote computer software for 30 years, and I thought, well, gee whiz, that's a place I can really become engaged and kind of behind the scenes, under the cover, and I believe I can be of some use and some help. And that's how I got moving toward the SIA in the technology area.
That's great. Well, I hope what everyone watching takes away from your story is that you don't need to be a constitutional expert or a political guru to make an impact. And Lee, it's so inspiring how you found a way to serve the grassroots, because we all bring different personalities and skill sets and talents to the fight. What do you like most about volunteering for Convention of States?
Well, I feel that I need to do what I can do to make a difference again. You know, due to the fact I've taken 2 oaths for this country and I've sworn to protect it, and I see the disparities that are coming our way, I'm of the firm opinion that the only way out that we have any longer is Convention of States. There's just no doubt in my mind. My only fear is we don't have enough time to get it done.
And that's a real fear that many people have. Many people say, oh, why can't we just get this convention to happen right now? We need it now. Why can't we get there? Unfortunately, the founders made it very difficult for a convention to take place. But because of people like you who are working tirelessly, we will get to a convention. And so that brings me to my next question, because you served in the U.S. military and you fought overseas in war. And so now, working with Convention of States, do you see that this is your duty to carry this fight in COS in helping to preserve and to defend the Constitution? I mean, as you said earlier, you took an oath to defend the U.S. Constitution. Do you think you can continue defending through Convention of States?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And there is a bit of it, another backstory that I perhaps might want to share with you that has to do with Convention of States, and really and truly how I ended up swearing the oath and taking out citizenship. If I may continue on that, let me know.
Of course, please share.
About a year and a half ago, a couple of the colleagues in my state put on a chili cook-off and a show and whatnot, and I drove down to be of some assistance and see if I could help out in the booth and whatnot. And I met a gentleman from COS who is one of the national figures, and he's not with Convention of States any longer. But as it turned out, he had some naval legal background. He and I talked for, he was actually in charge of the tech group at COS for a time. And in the conversation, I happened to share a bit of my story with him. And he says, well, why didn't you take out citizenship? And I said, well, I'm just not interested in paying out $900 and being subjected to all the nonsense and all the rhetoric and everything. It's just, you know, my single vote is not that important as far as I'm concerned. And he seemed to accept that for the moment. And a couple of days later, I got an email from him, and he outlined exactly what I had to do to go ahead and move forward and take out citizenship, and the processing fees and everything were exempted, and I didn't have to go through all the other nonsense. All I had to do was fill out one short form. He took the trouble to go find this out for me. I scheduled a meeting with the immigration services, and even the immigration interviewer did not know that the fees could be exempted with this single, I think it was like 9 questions on the form. He had to go ask somebody. So that gave me kind of a renewed interest. And this was in 2019, or actually 18, and then 19, I went through the process, did the interview, and a year ago, October, I swore the oath to become a citizen. And I thank him for taking that time and becoming that involved for me to help me out, and permitted me to discover something I didn't know.
What a great story you have. And Lee, I would like to know what you would say to someone who is watching this right now and wondering how they can take action and make an impact.
Oh, the only thing I can say to folks, if you're sitting there watching what's going on and you're not in fear of your life and you're not willing to get up and take some action, then shame on you. You deserve what you get. And it's just a matter of we have to stand up for our rights, and there is no other place that I have found that I can do that.
Thank you so much, Lee, for your service to this country, and thank you so much for your service to Convention of States. We need so many more people just like you. So thank you, Lee.
You're welcome.
All right, so we now have our Article 5 trivia answer with Mike Ruthenberg. Mike, back to you.
Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed the show today. And remember, up for grabs, we have our Convention of States mug, Article 5 mug. And the question is about Article 5, if you recall from earlier in the show. The question was, what fraction of states are required to pass an application in order to call a Convention of States? This is, of course, in the second portion of Article 5 of the Constitution. And the answer, you probably already know, is 2/3 of the states. So that means we need 34 states in order to pass an application. The interesting part is over 400 applications have been passed, except what happens is you have all these different states passing all these different applications. One of the things that's going to make Convention of States work is that our application is exactly the same in every state. We've gotten 15 states so far to pass this application, which means it's going to aggregate, which means that once we do get to 34 states, there's no question that the call for a Convention of States includes a multiple topic constraint on the federal government, on the size, scope, and jurisdiction, to possibility of imposing term limits and fiscal restraints on the federal government. Any amendment that's germane to that will work when we pass and we get to 34 states. And right now, there's so much interest in doing this because of the runaway federal government we have. So you can do your part. If you're in a state that hasn't passed resolution, all you got to do is call up your state senator, your state assembly, or congressperson in order to convince them that they need to know, or maybe you don't convince them, maybe just let them know in massive numbers that we have that you support Convention of States, and you would urge them to pass that application in your state. Take some of that power that belongs to them from Washington, D.C. And let's see, so those are some of the things that we have going today. I think now I will turn it back over to Andrew, who will close out what's been a great show. Back to you, Andrew.
Well, thanks, Mike. It's time for us now to sign off. I know it's always sad when we have to go, but we do have to end this episode of COS Live. So I'm going to turn over to Rita, who's going to sign us off.
Thanks, Andrew. So I want to say to all you all watching, if you are frustrated with corrupt politics, if you are sick and tired of having your rights steamrolled, know this: there is a plan. The American founders were brilliant. They knew this might happen, and they gave us a solution for such a time as this. That's why Convention of States is working to use Article 5 of the Constitution to put the people back in charge. COS equips American patriots to reclaim their self-governance. The movement is well underway with 15 states on board already. 34 is the magic number we need. When we get to convention, we're going to send the career politicians packing, force DC to use our money wisely, and place meaningful limits on federal overreach. So go to conventionofstates.com, share the petition, join your local COS team. They need you. Help us to make history and to change DC forever.
And after you've done all of that, after you've signed the petition, after you have joined a local team, make sure that you go watch the battle cry with COS co-founder Mark Meckler. It's on at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays every week. It's absolutely amazing. You get a dose of Mark Meckler, and it's never quite enough because he's just such an amazing man with just such an amazing perspective. So make sure to go check that out. And also, we will see you back next week for another episode of COS Live, right here, same time, same place, 6 p.m. Eastern time on Facebook. And remember, if you're looking for the person who is going to restore the Republic, look in the mirror because it's going to be you. All right, that's all we have time for this episode. We'll see you next week.